We're live in five, four, three, two. Oh, that's strange. One. Welcome.
What's happening?
What's up? Welcome to the Tech Behind FinTech. I am really excited today for my guest, and I'm going to do the formal introduction. And then I am going to get into the show. I need to apparently I need to mute my computer. I hear background noise. Yeah. So this is the Tech to FinTech live stream show. We are very excited for our special guest today. Let me do the official bio and then I'm going to get personal. Cybersecurity super recruiter Renee Small helps people take the mystery out of breaking into cybersecurity. She is passionate about building best-in-class cybersecurity teams. In 2017, Renee received the Stevie Award for Female Entrepreneur of the Year. She is a #1 Amazon best-selling author of Magnetic Hiring, a contributing editor to several cybersecurity magazines, and she co-hosts a podcast called Breaking Into Cybersecurity. Welcome, Renee, to the Tech Behind FinTech.
I am excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
I am super excited. Now, on a personal note, Renee and I go back a very, 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 very long time.
Dude, we're not 70.
I'm just saying it's been a minute. I'm not gonna talk years because I want to protect the innocent, but it's been a long time. So it is I'm extremely happy right now to have her. Besides us both being in security and technology, we also have worked on various projects together in the past. So super, super excited to have Renee Small. I knew her before she was Renee Small. I have to say that. So it's been a while. So how are you doing today?
I'm good. All
Excellent.
is well. Filling positions, looking to hire people, the usual good stuff that happens. So it's great. Can you hear me clearly?
I can hear you clearly. I mean, people are saying my girl Renee rocks. Yes, she does, Sensor Ray. Jose, boy, let's go, Renee. We have fans all over the place.
Get him on Breaking Into Cybersecurity podcast. Super recruiters.
That would be super cool if you do. He's a friend of mine as well. Cool. So here is the format of our show for those who are tuning in for the first time. What we do with our guests, we cover the news topic of the day, and then we get into the technology topic of the day. And in this case, the topic is how to find fintech pros for your startup. So when we're going through some interesting articles that we find interesting, we're going to get Renee's take on it, and we're going to discuss that. And then we're going to jump into our topic of the day, which all of you are probably very interested in hearing. So the first article of the day. Look, we have to take it on crypto, Renee. Bitcoin hit $19,920, $920.53. Crazy. What are your thoughts?
I should have bought more. I mean, we talked about this.
Oh my God.
We talk about this all the time.
So for those who are not familiar with cryptocurrency, understand Bitcoin was $1 in 2011. That's not like $1 back in the 90s when Amazon was popping and all of a sudden Amazon's at 3,000. This is 2011. I mean, literally 9 years ago.
I mean, 2 years ago. When was it? 3 years ago? A couple years ago.
Oh, it
was like, what, 10,000, 12,000?
Oh, lower than that.
Lower than that? Below 10,000.
2017 was the big boom. That's what they knew.
Right. Then it went down.
Not jealous. I'm happy for them. Don't know what just happened. Some camera issue. Okay, yeah. So, but So it's definitely crazy. And like I said, that's what happened. We definitely should have bought some more Bitcoin. Okay, another person's chiming in.
All my peeps
I'm here for you, for Renee. Get that. I love it.
All my peeps.
Yeah, hashtag security peeps. I know you bring
That's
bring
right.
a whole lot of people with you. Awesome.
We come when we come deep.
I love it. I love it. The next article of the day, Visa announced it's connecting its global payments network, 60 million merchants to a US dollar coin, USDC, developed by Circle. That digital currency is now valued at 2.9 billion. So just to give some clarity around it, with this type of coin developed by Circle, that's what they call a stable coin. So it's backed by some sort of fiat. So it's not as volatile as, let's say, a Bitcoin or Ethereum or things of that nature. It basically allows you to businesses and individuals to transact quicker than normal modes. So in this particular section, Visa's basically, they're part of Visa's fast track program in which they work with fintechs to obtain credentials for issuing Visa cards. While the majority of crypto plays consist of tokenized version of fiat, similar to USD, backed by traditional currency issued on a blockchain and spendable via the card. So, yeah, what are your thoughts on that, Renee?
Well, I didn't realize, I read something recently about Visa giving out their rewards in Bitcoin. So
Wow.
I didn't know that this is a component as well. So it just goes to show what we'll jump into around crypto, around the blockchain, around the type of talent that these companies are going to be looking for in the future, because it's here to stay. Cryptocurrency, it's here. It's not going anywhere. And we have to, the folks that are forward looking, obviously all the tech folks in fintech and not in fintech, but technology people, as you know, and the rest of the folks out here, that being forward looking, looking at what's coming, what's upcoming, is definitely a space where I think we're going to see more and more of it. We saw PayPal do it a couple years ago with having a wallet for Bitcoin. Now Visa's a major company, so now when they're doing this, you can see how it legitimizes the space. And what's up to Lincoln? Because again, another security piece are showing up.
Digital currency is the future. Yeah, I love it. You bring your crew. You bring your crew. Yeah. Look. In working, so different professional organizations are part of the Cloud Security Alliance on their blockchain. They have different subgroups. I'm part of a blockchain working group, and we're currently working on a DLT framework for blockchain, not necessarily like crypto itself, but there's different business use cases. And I'll tell you, the financial institutions are adopting. I mean, you have a lot of smart contract usage and just different things from Hyperledger to Quarter to Ethereum, but mostly on the financial side, they use Hyperledger and Quarter they're looking into. So definitely interesting stuff. Our next article that we find interesting, Goldman Sachs has led a Series C investment round of 81 million for a digital banking technology provider called Amount. The name of the company is Amount. Amount enables banks to navigate digital transformation through its modular and mobile first platform for financial products. Clients include Banco Popular, HSBC, Regions Bank, and TD Bank, helping them transition to digital financial services. So that's another trend that we see are incumbents basically outsourcing their fintech technologies to these startups and smaller firms. That's definitely a trend that we see year over year. It's just basically faster to have them do it than build it. An article that we talked about a couple of weeks, 2 weeks ago, I think, Google Pay. And essentially, banks will be using them. They're partnering with certain banks, so the banks, they don't have to build their own app. They could just leverage that of Google Pay. What are your thoughts on that, Renee?
Yeah, I mean, technology. This has been going on for years. I was doing some research recently, thinking about going back, like you said, way back in the day when I first started in recruiting and technology. It's always been fintech, so technology for financial services, the major banks, and over the years, all of the things that they have these things sound exciting and it's new and it's a new thing, but think about 10 years ago when nobody had iPhones and you couldn't even remotely imagine taking a picture of a check and depositing it into your account, or
my mom still doesn't believe in it. I'm like,
yeah,
don't mail the check. You could just take a picture of it. She's like, no. I'm like, don't take a picture of it. The cell phone, just take a picture. She's like, no, I'm gonna mail it. I'm like, don't mail the check.
I have spoken to a number of moms, and one in particular, it was hilarious this week. A good friend of mine, I spoke to her mom, and her mom made me laugh so hard. But she also would not go for that. She's like, nope, I'm taking it into a human. I'm taking this into somebody. But if you think of, I mean, it comes with that. But if you think about it, if you even go back further, Bloomberg terminals, think about, how Bloomberg made his money, how he became a billionaire, creating these the technology for traders at the time that they did not necessarily have. Going back further, credit cards. Can you imagine?
I mean, I think America. I mean, ATM. We did a trivia challenge. We're not doing it today, but we did a trivia challenge before. Do you know when you did your research? You might know this. The first ATM. When was that introduced and where? Which bank? 1967. Barclays.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And then it just took off from there, as we can see.
Wow.
So no.
I didn't know it was that far back. I thought it would, I would have thought it would have been in the 70s, but
no, understand, right? We're talking about like real archaic technology. It was real. It wasn't what we're seeing today. But the concept was introduced at that time from that last trivia challenge that we did. No, I mean, and a good point that you mentioned, like, even though fintech we're talking about it more. I mean, the idea of introducing technology to financial services has been around since the 1800s, really. So, now we're seeing basically a lot of disruptive technologies that are just totally different. A lot of players that are not necessarily originally financial houses, right? They're technology shops, like Facebook, for instance, right? Facebook is a social media platform. They brought WhatsApp. Now they have WhatsApp Pay, trying to introduce it to various countries around the world, from India to Brazil. So that is the major difference that we're seeing in these times.
Exactly.
So now, without further ado, we're going to jump into it. What are we going to jump into? We're going to jump into our topic of the day: how to find fintech pros for your startup. We have an expert in the building. How do you do that, Renee? How do you find expert? If I'm a CEO, I just launched this hot idea. I have a patent. I need to build up a team, but I don't have the Series C funding right now. I'm beyond bootstrapping, right? We have some angel investors. We got our first round. I need some technologists, right? Besides my co-founder.
What do I do? So wide open. Yeah, it's there's a couple different ways to do it. Obviously, you're bootstrapping in the very beginning when it's a handful of people and you're literally trying to just go out there and get talent. Like, you are the evangelist. When you're the CEO, CTO, COO, you're everything. So you need to convince somebody why they should leave their situation and come over to your organization. And it's a hard sell for a lot of people, especially if they're leaving something that's more secure, if they're in a bigger startup or if they're in a larger company overall, having to come up with a compelling reason as to why somebody should take on this new role or this new opportunity that could be here, could not be here. We don't know when it comes to startups. So
I'm going to give you a lot of options, though, and if it works out, you're going to be like a quadrillionaire. You're going to be extremely rich.
Yeah. Would you take that?
I'm extremely. If you look at my career, I take risk. So I have a lot of friends that we all started out 20 years ago, and they stuck with the traditional banking. I'm a little bit of a maverick. So, if
Yeah.
you have a great idea and you can pay my light bill, I mean, we could talk.
Yeah. And that's really what it's about. Like you have to have a compelling argument. So
Yeah.
you got to be able to, just like they're going out and getting funding. So CEO, tech firm, going out, you're getting funding. It's the same pitch to employees. You're especially that first group where you have to, you find out what the talent is that you're looking for. Where does that talent hang out? So if you're looking for, blockchain people, where are the blockchain people hanging out right now? That's a super hot skill set that not everybody knows. It's new. Understanding like and because most of the folks in this space are the technologists, they'll know, okay, well, 4 years ago or 2 years ago, before I started this thing, I was hanging out at these meetups, these things online, wherever people are congregating in the space where you want to hire the talent. And so hanging out there and making a compelling argument to people as to why either they themselves will want to come over, or friends, that would want to come over and get in on the new PayPal, the new, this Visa, what's going on right now with Visa and Bitcoin. Or I remember a couple of years ago, I was talking to, I can't remember which company. I think it was Fidelity.
Okay.
And I believe they had a lab, and they were doing, blockchain lab.
Yep.
Right. So, maybe go in there and trying to pluck some people like, hey, these people have a little bit more experience. So, or they've been doing it for a little bit longer, and, maybe they might be interested in taking on this very cool new space. And then obviously colleges. So you definitely want to go where college students are hanging out.
And I mean, with that said, with college students, wait, let's see if we have a comment from Ozzy. Let's see what she says. I'll be the friend of the Crazillionaire. For sure. For sure. So no, I mean, one of the things, and I think this is something that you see a lot as well, is experience, right? And I think, and I, obviously I'm a fan of breaking into cybersecurity. I watch it, and people at times want the world. They want the person, like, you have to have 20 years of experience, even though I think Bitcoin came out in '08, but you have to, or whatever it's a technology, like a new technology, you have to have 20 years of experience. But like, and I think there was some interesting LinkedIn posts about that. Like, this didn't even exist 5 years ago. You have to have this, you have to have that. You want the world. What do you, and I know that you've worked with some fintech clients in the past, helping to staff up their organization.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the challenges in that space with that type of mindset?
Yeah, I mean, it's just level setting, making people aware. And the cool thing is with technologists in particular, especially when you're talking to the person who is hiring, and just showing the facts, like, hey, if you're looking for, like, I can do a search out here and show you that, only, for example, let's take LinkedIn, for example, since we're on LinkedIn Live.
Yeah.
If LinkedIn has 600 million people on the platform, and I could do a search on LinkedIn and look for people that either have cryptocurrency or blockchain or something in their profile, or on their skill set, and it's, let's say, 1,000 or whatever, I'm just making up numbers. Then and then we don't even know if these people are actually technical, if they could do what you want, with what you need and all that. So it's kind of eye-opening where you're like, oh, well, there are people out here. Well, on this platform of 600 million people worldwide, there's 1,000 people that said that they have this skill. So from there, then you got to peel back. Okay, 500 of them may be what you're looking for, may actually have like the skill set, the technology. They might be a technology person, not just Renee Small recruiter that puts Bitcoin or blockchain on my profile.
I love those profiles, by the way.
So they have
every hot technology this guy has.
Right. So it's like, oh, I'm an administrative assistant, or I'm a whatever I am, and I have all these other cool technologies on there. So not those people, but people who may have been a developer or done something, from a technology perspective, and they actually have that profile. And then you narrow it down to, say, 500 people or so.
Okay.
That's a real conversation. It's like, hey, look, and yes, everyone's not on LinkedIn. We get it. But, out of 600 million people, there's 500 people in here that have this cert, this skill, this, and then it's a real eye-opening conversation, because then they can say, okay, let me start to get realistic if I want this particular skill. And if I really want to hire somebody and bring in a talent. So I always tell folks, top 3 skills that you need, absolute must-haves, because when you start creating these wacky job descriptions that have a laundry list of things that you are looking for people to have, nobody's applying anyway. Like, they're not going to apply. But then they get turned off, even if you have somebody like me or somebody like Joseph or any of the recruiters out here that are reaching out to people. They are going to turn around and say, why would I work here? Why would I, these people don't know what they're doing. Like, it looks messy.
I want to emphasize something you just said, and I think it's real critical, especially for people like looking. Emphasize the top 3 things you're looking for. Look, you have some people that have a very narrow expertise in something. You have some people that, have various levels of expertise, so they want to get an overall picture. But when you see a job description that's all over the place, it could be extremely challenging. And to your point, just looking at it from the consultant side, it's like, no. It's like,
nobody wants to, because you've been on the other side of this. You get a job description, it looks great. It's like, wait a minute, they want 4 people in one job. So the question then in the mind of you and the other technologists are, what's really going on here? Either this leader doesn't know what they want, or they're going to try to squeeze me to do 4 different jobs, or, it's all these different things that come up in a person's mind. And everyone I know, especially in these very, very niche spaces, are working. So you have to poach somebody out of their current situation. It's like, why would I leave and go to this, what looks like a hot mess? Because this job description is not really selling me on why I should consider having a conversation with this company.
Interesting stat that I saw. There are around 12,000 fintech firms that have opened worldwide. Fintech's worth is estimated to be 4.7 trillion, according to Goldman Sachs. 46% of fintech companies in the world agree that AI is among the most relevant technologies for investment. Very, very interesting stats.
Yeah.
Especially the 12,000, because look, those 12,000, you're gonna want to hire people. Something that we see a lot, and I know you see the term full stack developers.
Yeah. I mean, I'm working on some stuff right now. Like, people are looking for all of this type of talent, and full stack developer is one, AI is another, cybersecurity, obviously, and all these fintech companies. There's a lot of different skills that leaders and to make it work. Like, the thing what's cool, especially about especially what I really, really like about startups, is that you're hiring somebody because you need the work done. Like, it's not a nice to have. It's like, hey, it's not a nice to have in large organizations too, but in large organizations, if you have a group of 1,000 or 500 developers, if you miss one, somebody else could probably jump in. But if you have in a startup environment where it's a smaller type of environment, you really are hiring people because you have a product to get out. You have, you need this person. So yeah, having those stats with 12,000, fintech startups out there and needing to hire AI, I understand. I see it all the time. Machine learning. When I started doing research on it a couple years ago and learning a little bit more about what it is and how it works, and the types of people that are in it. Again, the thing is, it's a combination of having to potentially train some people, potentially getting consultants in to help. It's a combination, because when you have these newer technologies, everyone's growing. Like, everyone has to pick it up. I always go back to, I was having a conversation with someone about iPhone apps,
Yeah.
and saying, like somebody said to me, oh, do you think AI is going to take over or robots or whatever? And I was just like, think about, or is it are jobs going to change? Are jobs going to shift? And I think the conversation was around like the newer cybersecurity, the entry-level cybersecurity space, which obviously I spent a lot of time in.
Yep.
And then they said, hey, what do you think? This is kind of scary. I said, well, it's just going to shift. It'll be different. Like, think about when 10 years ago, none of us had these things. Like, we didn't have these iPhones. So
I still don't, by the way. I'm just throwing it out there. So, like,
just what?
I'm just throwing it out there. I still don't.
Oh yeah, you still don't
Yeah.
have it. Yeah, you're guilty. But no, apps as a whole, right? There was no app. You had a flip phone, you texted, that was it. There was no apps. So you have now people who don't remember a world without having apps. And they think that apps are just like, so 2000 and I don't know, 17, whatever it is. But there was a time when there were no apps. So like, think about when all of these, people had to be trained to learn how to create this new thing for these new devices. It's the same type of thing. So the training aspect is always going to be there. Go ahead.
Look, the one thing that so I'm actually back in school now, and one of the things that one of my advisors said to me is like, it's not about, all right, well, we might be learning AI, getting into artificial intelligence and machine learning, but that's not the point. The point is learning how to learn, because guess what? I've been in this game since the 90s. Technology changes constantly. So, do you want to stay stuck, or do you want to constantly have to basically reinvent yourself constantly? I mean, does it get tiring? Look, you just have to kind of have a passion for it, and constantly like keep your hands on the pulse of what's going on. Let's take some comments from our viewers. Josep, awesome show so far. I have to jump off. Keep the good work up. Enjoy the weekend. Just message me for your podcast. Definitely will do. You're going to be on the invite list. OZ, let's see what she says. A recruiter friend told me that sometimes hiring managers put everything out there just in case, but most times they just want to talk of anyone who shows interest.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, they're trying.
Like spam. That sounds like spam, but I don't know.
That's the thing. Like, they're trying, and I get it. Like, they think it's almost like when you're working on, the generalist as a whole.
Yeah.
So I always take it back to recruiting. Yesterday, I think it might have been on my podcast yesterday. We're talking about this, how when you're a generalist recruiter and you have so many roles, you're filling a marketing job and a HR job and a finance job and this and that and a third. And so you're broad, right? Meaning your skill set, it's thin, like it's not deep in one thing. You don't fully understand the aspects of, how whatever deep level of marketing or whatever it is going on in HR or whatever technology or whatever, not deep. So you're going across. And when they put out these job descriptions, and you could get anybody and everybody, like you're doing a little bit of trying to attract people who you don't know. They can have like one little thing on their resume that might be a fit for you. It's like, no, you want to get more targeted. You want to go narrow. You want to get very specific in what you're looking for, because that type of job description attracts a different, right person. Like those, you want to be, you don't want to be anything to everybody, right? You want to be that one thing. Like, if I know that I attract this type of candidate, this type of client, this type of person, that's what your job description should be doing. So, Ozzy, I get the logic, but it doesn't work.
Let's see. OC has comments today. I love it. She's saying learning how to learn, so true. No matter the scope of your role, you need to be able to keep learning, admit your errors, and learn more. I mean, look, the advice I have, that's the advice I constantly give to like people just starting out. If I say that if you want a situation where college is done, you don't have to, or rather college or whatever you go through, it's done, and you don't have to pick up a book or learn something, this isn't the field for you, right?
Yeah.
It's just not, because you're constantly going to have to comply and learn different things. So,
and that's the case, I think that's the case in all professions. I was talking to my mom the other day, who's a retired nursing director, and she was like, I could never be a nurse right now because, again, the technology, right? So overall, So think about how many ever 50 years ago, what it was like to be a doctor or a nurse in an OR, right? To
Oh
today.
yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
continuous learning. Everything is
Continuous.
continuous and it's in every field. Like, I'm thinking about, I wasn't recruiting back when they were faxing resumes, but I heard about a time when they would fax and, literally run somebody's paper resume to an office or whatever the case is. And so just the evolution of all of these things. So everyone across the board, technology for sure, because you guys are at the forefront, but everyone should be doing continuous learning in their field regardless.
No, definitely agree. I mean, and to that point, even with in healthcare, I mean, health tech is a word, fintech is a word. I mean, technology disrupting multiple verticals, that's the thing. And I think that's here to stay as we start diving into like more things around AI, around machine learning, around robotics. It's just keep going on and on and on. So another thing I wanted to ask you, I've been working in fintechs for like going on 2 decades now. So have a lot of people I've worked with, some friends from traditional banks, and then and then from smaller private equity shops to hedge funds, just a lot of different contacts over the years. So I have one friend. He went from traditional banking that we worked in, and then he moved over to a startup, and he told me, "I'm never going back." So I want to get your yeah, he's just like, I'm never going back. This is comfortable here. I'm good. I'm done. So
Yeah.
I want to get your advice on those who have worked in the traditional the banking sector, financial services industry, and they want to transition to fintech. I also want to get your take on what those in the fintech world, more of the disruptive fintech, right, the startup world, have. How do they view them from based on what you've seen and the people you worked with? Can you expand on that?
Totally. So, you might hear a crying child, as most all of everyone knows. I have multiple little kids, so such as life.
Babies are blessings.
Exactly. They do their thing when they want to do it.
Of course.
So, I would say, okay, so for your folks who want to make the transition, and for your friend, I totally understand why, you leave these big behemoth organizations, big, huge bank that's been around. They have the processes in place. You're kind of like a widget. You're a wheel in a, what do you call it? A cob
A
in a wheel?
cog in a wheel. Yeah.
Cog in a wheel, right? So you're only like one person out of 100 people in a group or team, or, and you're doing one thing over and over and over again. And it's kind of hard to move over and get new skills maybe in your role, right? So you might be doing that one thing over and over until you actively like maybe apply to another position, apply to another, role in the company or externally to get additional experience. But the cool thing about in the startup environment, and it could be, stiffer, definitely more bureaucracy, more red tape, more, go ahead.
And to add to that, right, and to all fairness for the behemoth, the big banks out there, is extreme. The regulatory constraints are just
Correct.
crazy, right? So, I
Right.
mean, I just know in terms of pushing an application and going through change management, going through all those processes where more with clients that are smaller in the fintech, where they're like, no, we're just going to make the change and just plop it in. And you're like, oh, okay, let's go for it.
Right. Yeah.
Because they're not regulated yet. Now, when those same fintech firms try to partner with the bigger firms, then they have to adhere to certain regulations, and that's when things start getting real, a lot like honing down on the process stuff. So I'm sorry, I just want to add that in as
Yeah.
you were explaining your take on it.
Absolutely. That's exactly what it is. So you have all these compliance, all these regulations that you have, and going through that process can be laborious at a big company. And a smaller company is so much easier. You end up doing a whole lot more, usually much more laid back, casual environment. Typically, there's no red tape. It's just, hey, this is what I'm doing, or this is how we can move the company forward. It's all about like getting these things done and moving it through. And so people love that, especially in the folks that really want to get their hands dirty in different things, because you very well are, you're not doing one thing over and over. Like you could be picking up a whole bunch of different stuff. Now, for some people, that's not, they get stressed out because it's too much, it's too many things. But for a lot of folks, they really like and enjoy that type of environment because you have the laid back aspect of, hey, it's just a handful of people. I might be sitting in a room, pre-COVID, it's 12 people in a room, like it's just like a small group, and the CEO is like at this end of the table and you're at this end of the table, so it's definitely like a different type of an environment. And it makes sense that people want to get there. Some of the things that are challenges, like I said, when the leaders are looking to hire people, I did a recent search, and one of the challenges comes when it's only big financial services or just big companies that a person has been in, and they're trying to make that transition, because the leader will say things like, they don't understand, like the resources are not the same. You're not going to have everything at your fingertips the way you do at a JP Morgan Chase or some big, huge, organization. We're nimble. We don't have this stuff. Like, you have to be able to try to figure the things out on your own. So
that's an interesting point that you're making, and I want to see how we could structure that to give advice to those who want to make that transition. Right now, if the leader or of the organization of the startup looks at their resume and automatically disqualifies them, do you see that? We're saying, they're coming from a big shop, they're not going to understand us. You know what? We don't even want to go forward with the interview.
yeah,
What can those technologists coming from the big shop do so they can at least get past the gate? To
if they, they should volunteer, or they should try to do, if you could get into a nonprofit where you're doing something in a smaller kind of environment where you're the one person shop, or, some kind of small environment, so you can speak to, oh, wow, this is how I was able to solve these problems at this small environment, that also didn't have the resources. They didn't have this, they didn't have that. So I recommended that we go with this option, and this is why, and we put it in, and it was successful. So you want to get that experience somehow to be able to make a compelling argument to that leader that says, you were at JP Morgan Chase for 8 years. It's going to be tough because, we're nothing like that. Like, we got all this stuff going on. We had the person that, you might be sweeping the floor at night. I mean, I'm, kind of joking, but like, you're doing a bunch of different things, right? So you're not going to be doing this one thing, and the expectations of what you're going to bring to the table, or what we can offer, are just going to be so different. So closing that gap.
So, like, to summarize, then, it's to leave our audience with that aspect. Basically, do things outside of your job, or in which you are showing that you can be the one person show. You can get things done end to end, and maybe outside of your skill set.
Right.
Does that sound right? So let's take it to our viewers before. Lincoln, absolutely, LZ. You need both passion for the industry as well as drive for continued personal development. Without that passion, you quickly burn out. That is true for any industries. Yeah, big facts. So I know we are at 12:39, and I obviously, so just everyone, Renee and I talk offline all the time, and we can talk for hours and hours. And but I know that I booked her time from 12 to 12:30. I want to be extremely respectful of that.
Already over.
I totally ran over 9 minutes. Guilty as charged. Renee, what are some closing advice that we can give, one, to those two personality types, right? The fintech startups, and also the people who are from the big companies and want to transition out. What are some closing remarks?
Yeah, I mean, from the startup perspective, just getting really, really clear on that job description from a job description perspective, and then obviously having to go out there and talk to people in your network, and friends of friends and friends of friends and what have you, to get the type of talent that you're looking for. That would be my piece of advice, like getting really tight on the job, and the compelling argument. So why would I want to leave? Think about yourself as a leader or as a person, 5 years ago, how many ever years ago, and somebody's trying to poach you out of a situation, think about what you would need what would make it compelling for you to have a conversation. So it's just kind of doing the reverse, thinking about, hey, if someone is reaching out to me and they have some small startup and I was at, big company X, what would it take for me to leave? What's compelling about this,
Mm.
So definitely thinking about it from that perspective. That's the piece of advice I would give to the fintech startup leaders. And then for the folks who would love to make a transition from a big company to a smaller company, continuous learning is that's point blank period, regardless of where you're going. You have to be continuously learning. But two, I would definitely try to get a volunteer opportunity somewhere where you can go in, help a company, and you can, because you want the real experience. I would even say, because some, in the security space, you talk about having a lab and working in the lab. If you could actually help a company like a nonprofit, some small organization that needs help, either by volunteer or by maybe part-time or something like that, where you can speak to, oh, these were the challenges, this is how I overcame. That's the space where I think people, what leaders want to see. They want to know, especially in a startup space. I was just talking to a startup, good friend of mine, and fellow recruiter, Mimi Gross. I told her I might shout her out, so she's getting a shout out.
Shout out to Mimi.
So she deals with startups all the time. And she said, they are very conservative because they want to have the type of person that can come in and hit the ground running and realize, and that person, the expectations be set. And that's kind of the thing. Like, they want to know that this person, when you come in here, you're not going to have all the resources and all the tools and the bells and whistles that you had at company X. And so if we take all those tools away, how are you going to get creative about solving problems? And so that's what you want to flesh out. So when it's theory, it's one thing. When you actually did it somewhere, that's the ticket. That's when they're like, oh, this person, okay, so all right, on Monday through Friday, they're working at Bank of America, but on the weekends, they're doing this, they're helping this, they built out this thing for a church, or they help these people, create this situation in some nonprofit or whatever it is, that you can say, this is what I overcame. They had a tight budget, they didn't really have any money, so we decided to do this, this, and this. And it would show the creativity and how you could potentially bring that to their organization.
Nay, excellent advice. I think we got comments saying great advice. Listen, thank you very much for appearing on the show. And look, I'm gonna flat out say, breaking into cyber, I follow that. Renee has been a LinkedIn Live mentor to me, teaching me, showing me the ropes on this whole LinkedIn Live, and now I have my own show. She's like she's going on 200 episodes. I'm at episode 5. So I have a ways to go, but I want to say thank you definitely for showing the light, and thank you for coming on this show. Really appreciate it, and you have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Happy to be here and happy to come back and share more tips.
Listen, the door. It's a few people in this world where I always say the door's always open. You're one of them. The door is literally always open. Let's do it. And I think that it could be a revolving thing. We see constantly like that. Those are the two biggest things. Startups looking for great talent and people wanting to jump in, work at a startup who may not necessarily have been constantly in that startup culture. Because it's how everything. I was at startup A, startup B, now I'm at startup C, where you're not even in that conversation. How do you actually get in? So I think this could be a really good things that we can dive into regarding fintech startups, since they're like popping up. And I want to leave somebody, look, once again, the fintech worth is estimated, the industry is estimated at $4.7 trillion. It's a lot of money, a lot of opportunities.
Yep.
So let's continue the conversation.
Cool.
And once again, you have a great day. Thanks again.
You too, sir. Bye, everybody.
Bye.